Don't let mosquitoes ruin your day. Fight the bite by removing standing water on your property. Standing water of any kind is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Do your part and help reduce the mosquito population. Visit hcfl.gov/fightthebite.
Tampa Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag. You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look, no plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit tampabayrecycles.org.
Is your local business or organization looking to give back to the community? Help keep our roads clean by joining the Adopt a Road program administered by Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful. Keeping our roads clean is a great way for team building as well as exposure for your business. Select the road your business wants to adopt and dispatch a team to remove litter and debris. Participants will receive 2 signs showing their organization's name as well as safety equipment and instructions for cleaning roads. You can help keep Tampa Bay beautiful by adopting your own road today. To learn more, visit hcfl.gov/cleanhc.
Good evening and welcome to the February 18th, 2025 Zoning Hearing Master meeting. I'm Pamela Jo Hatley and I'll be serving as your Zoning Hearing Master today. Before we get started with the agenda, if you would please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, again, I'm Pamela Jo Hatley, and I'll be serving as your Zoning Hearing Master this evening. If you have any devices on you that are noisemakers, if you would please silence those at this time, that would be appreciated. And I would like to introduce Ms. Michelle Heinrich, who will introduce the staff of the Development Services Department and others, and any agenda changes, withdrawals, continuances, etc.
Sure. Good evening, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. With the County Attorney's Office, we have Cameron Clark, and with the Planning Commission tonight, we have Tyreek Royal, and we have Willow Mikey. Am I pronouncing it correct? I think so. Mickey, I'm sorry, here for the Planning Commission tonight. And we do have some unpublished changes to go over very quickly. The first one is Agenda Page 8, Item C3, Standard Rezoning 25-0177. We do have a revised staff report that will be entered into the record tonight that will be modifying one of the restrictions. Agenda Page 9, Item C4, Standard Rezoning 25-0178. This one as well is a restricted zoning. We have some revised restrictions that we'll be presenting tonight in the form of a revised staff report. And for Agenda Page 9, Item D1, Major Mod 24-1110, we do have some information additionally from the Environmental Services Division that we received rather late, but we have put that into the file and we'll enter that into the record tonight. Agenda Page 10, Item D2, Standard Rezoning 24-1135. We will be submitting a revised staff report to include the transportation section in that staff report, in DSD staff report. It was already presented in optics. Agenda Page 10, Item D3, Major Mod 24-1137. We are revising the agenda to correct the applicant's name spelling, Eisenhower Property Group, LLC. Agenda Page 11, Item D6, Rezoning PD 25-0147. This application we have found is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. We did find a notice error after publishing the agenda. And then before we go over our our published withdrawals and continuances, we did want to make sure we'd be able to proceed with the case tonight if the applicant is here. This is for one of our standard rezonings. Let me see here. I believe this is 25-0123, if the applicant's here? Yes. Okay. And what we needed to find out is if he was able to obtain necessary review comments from the school board. And if not, we would not be able to proceed with the case tonight.
Okay, so should the applicant come forward then? This is not something that's in the record then already? Okay. All right, this is rezoning standard 25-0123. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
All right, we need your name and address, please.
Hamza Buludan.
I'm Fakir Hussain, the applicant.
Okay, and address?
For the subject property.
We need the speakers' names and addresses for the record.
Right. So Hamza Buludan, 1445 35th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Fakir Hussain, 104 Oak Ridge Avenue, Temple Terrace, Florida, 33617.
Thank you very much. And the staff, I believe, is looking for some information that should have been obtained for the record. Would you like to?
Sure. We needed to know if you were able to get a hold of anyone at the school board to see if they could provide you with their review comments.
We did pay the fee and we did submit the application. I have tried numerous times to get a hold.
Can you talk into the microphone, please?
I'm sorry. We paid the fee and filled out the application. And I tried a few times to get a hold of her, but no luck.
Okay. Yeah, if that is the case, then we would not be able to proceed because the record closes tonight.
Okay.
So that application would need to be continued to the March 24th hearing. And I believe there may be some community members here to speak to that item.
Okay. But this is an item that cannot be heard tonight, so it's not, the question of continuance is just not even there. Okay.
Right, I just wanted to
All
make
right.
sure at the beginning all of them
Okay.
knew in case they're here tonight.
Okay. All right, we'll make that clear then. So did you understand that, sir? Because the record is not complete, your case cannot go forward tonight. So your case, this is rezoning standard 25-0123, is being continued to the March 24th, did you say?
Yes.
March 24th zoning hearing master meeting. And anyone who is here or online members of the public who wished to speak on this item, you're on notice that this item is being continued to March 24th. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And now I'll just go over the published withdrawals and continuances from the agenda.
Okay.
The first one is item A1, PD 24-0591. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the May 19th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A2, Major Mod 24-0675. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A3, PD 24-1013. This application is being continued by the applicant to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A4, PD 24-1075. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 15th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A5, PD 24-1116. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A6, PD 24-1139. This application is being continued by the applicant to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A7, PD 24-1147. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 15th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A8, Major Mod 24-1152. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A9, PD 24-1169. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 15th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A10, PD 24-1202. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A11, PD 24-1263. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 15th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A12, PD 24-1264. This application is being continued by the applicant to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A13, PD 24-1311. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A14, PD 24-1353. This application is being continued by staff to the April 15th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A15, PD 25-0070. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 15th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A16, Major Mod 25-0071. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A17, Major Mod 25-0133. This application is being continued by staff to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A18, Major Mod 25-0134. This application has been withdrawn from the hearing process. Item A19, Major Mod 25-0136. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A20, PD 25-0140. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A21, PD 25-0143. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A22, PD 24-0144. This application is being continued by the applicant to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A23, PD 25-0145. This application is out of order and is being continued to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing. Item A24, Special Use 25-0300, is being continued by the applicant to the March 24th, 2025 ZHM hearing, and that concludes our published withdrawals and continuances.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, before we get started with the agenda, I'll go over some the meeting procedures for tonight. So the agenda consists of items that require a public hearing before a hearing master before they go to the Board of County Commissioners for a final decision. I will conduct a hearing on each item today and will submit written recommendations. My written recommendations will be filed with the clerk of the board within 15 working days after the conclusion of today's public hearings. The Board of County Commissioners will consider the record of today's public hearings, and my recommendations will make final decisions on each item at a publicly noticed meeting on a date and time set by the Board of County Commissioners. The hearings today will be informal. I will ask questions related to the scope of direct testimony and may call and question witnesses as I deem appropriate. I will decide all questions of procedure. I will take evidence, but will exclude any evidence that is irrelevant or immaterial or unduly repetitious. Evidence may be presented in written form, and all testimony shall be under oath. Hearsay evidence may be used to supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not be sufficient alone to support a finding of fact unless it would be admissible over objections in a civil court action. The order of presentation for each item will be as follows. First of all, county staff will introduce the item. The applicant and the applicant's witnesses will have 15 minutes to present the proposal. County Development Services will have 5 minutes to present its findings and recommendations. Planning Commission will have 5 minutes to present its findings of compliance or non-compliance with the comprehensive plan. Proponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments in support of the proposal. Opponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments against the proposal. County staff will have 5 minutes to present any amended recommendations, and then the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal and summation. The 15 minutes for proponents and opponents is the total time allotted among all the speakers. If there are a number of persons tonight who wish to speak on an item, the 15 minutes will be distributed among all of the speakers. Also, if there are a number of persons who wish to speak on a single item, you may designate a spokesperson to represent your views. When you come to the microphone tonight to speak, please first state your name and address for the record. This meeting is being recorded, so please speak into the microphone so your testimony can be recorded. When you're finished speaking, please see the clerk to sign in for the record. The clerk here's on my left. And now we'll hear from the county attorney's office for legal requirements for requesting oral argument at the public meeting before the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Hairdresser. Good evening. My name is Cameron Clark. I'm an assistant county attorney. Tonight's public hearing is the first step of a two-step rezoning process. This hearing is a time for rezoning applicants and interested parties to present evidence and testimony. Any evidence presented tonight will become the complete factual record of each application, and no additional evidence can be introduced after the closing of each application. The second step of the rezoning process is a public meeting before the Board of County Commissioners, where the board will take a decision on each application heard tonight. Tonight's applications are scheduled to be heard by the board at its April 8th land use meeting. When considering applications, the board will only review the record created at tonight's hearing and the recommendation made by the hearing master for each application. The hearing master will file a recommendation for each application heard tonight on March 11th. The Board of County Commissioners has established a policy that directs which rezoning and major modification applications are to be placed on the consent agenda of the board's land use meeting. Applications that propose to add density outside the urban service area and applications that are on roadways with a failing level of service are not qualified for placement on the consent agenda. Applications that do not have consistent recommendations for approval or denial are also not qualified to be placed on the consent agenda. And finally, applications that have had evidence or testimony provided to the record by non-applicant parties of record, either prior to or at tonight's public hearing, are not qualified for placement on the consent agenda. The board will allow testimony by any party of record at its public meeting to consider the hearing master's recommendation for any item on the regular agenda. Testimony by a party of record shall be limited to the record of the proceedings before the hearing master tonight, unless additional evidence has been found admissible in accordance with Section 10.03.04D of the Land Development Code. A party of record is someone who fits into at least one of the following four categories: someone who is present tonight and presents testimony or other evidence, someone who has been certified by the U.S. Postal Service as having been mailed notes at tonight's hearing, someone who submitted documentary evidence to the master file at least 2 business days before tonight's hearing. Or fourth, someone who submitted documented evidence by proxy at tonight's hearing. The content of oral argument before the board shall be limited to the content of the testimony or other evidence submitted verbally or in writing to the hearing master tonight. It is the role of the county attorney's office to ensure that only individuals who have met these requirements are allowed to speak before the board, and to ensure that no new evidence or testimony is introduced or allowed at the board's public meeting. For these reasons, please make sure that all information you wish the board to consider at its public meeting is entered in tonight's record. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, to the testimony tonight, all testimony must be under oath. So if you plan to speak tonight, would you please stand as you're able to be sworn in? Raise your hand. If there's anyone online who plans to speak, please also raise your hand to be sworn in. All right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Thank you. Thank you. I believe we are ready, Ms. Reinert, to call the first case.
Our first application is item C1, standard rezoning 24-1289. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from AR to AS 0.4. James Bacon with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right, applicant.
Hi.
Hi, please state your name and address, and then
Okay. And then what?
and then we'll hear your what your request is.
Okay. My name's Holly Boyer. The address is 17820 Dorman Road, Lithia 33549. And we're requesting to rezone from, it's the AR, it's 1 house per 5 acres to 1 house per 2.5 acres, AR to AS 0.4.
Okay. Anything else you wish to add?
No, we're just rezoning it to parcel that half off and sell it.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Be sure and sign in with the clerk here.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Development Services.
Good evening. James Baker, Development Services. This is standard rezoning case 24-1289. The request is to rezone from the existing agricultural zoning of 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to AS .04 of 1 dwelling unit per 2.5 acres, creating 2 separate parcels. The site is an area comprised of agricultural and single-family residential uses. A majority of the area surrounding the site is within the RS1 future land use category, which permits agricultural and single-family residential uses at 1 unit per acre. The size and depth of the subject parcel in relation to other adjacent agricultural and residential uses would create a zoning development pattern that's consistent with the existing zoning and development pattern of the agricultural and residential uses and zoning districts in the area.
All right, thank you so much. I have no questions for you. All right, Planning Commission.
Good afternoon, Terry Royal, Planning Commission staff. The subject site is located north of Dorman Road and east of Holly Pine Trail. The site is in the rural area and is located within the limits of the South Shore Area Community Plan. The proposal meets intent of FLU Objective 16 that requires new development to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Goal 12 and Objective 12-1 of the community design component of the FLU require new development to recognize the existing community and be designed to relate and be compatible with the predominant character of the surrounding area. In this case, the surrounding land use pattern is comprised of mostly single-family use, agricultural, and vacant land. Therefore, the proposed rezoning will complement the surrounding area and meets the intent of FLU Objective 16 and its accompanying policies. Overall, staff find that the proposed use is an allowable use in the Res 1 category, is compatible with the existing development pattern found within the surrounding area, and does support the vision of the South Shore Area-wide Systems Community Plan. Based upon the above considerations, goals, objectives, and policies, Planning Commission staff find the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions set by Development Services Department. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And applicant, did you have anything further? That's a no from the applicant. All right, thank you. This will close the hearing on rezoning standard 24-1289.
Our next application is item C3, standard rezoning 25-0177. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from PD 06-1721 to AS1 with restrictions. Logan McCaig with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer. Joe Moretto for the record. Long time no see. Good to see you again. Joe Moretto of the Gardner Brewer Hudson, 400 North Ashley. We're here to speak to actually two rezonings while I get set up. These rezonings will essentially rezone 5 parcels out of a planned development. So I'm assuming at the board level they'll be heard as related items. The first one we're going to speak to is Standard Rezoning District 25-0177. I'm looking for the keys here. There we go. This particular property is located on the south side of Riverview Drive, approximately 200 feet west of Henderson Street intersection, which is all west of US 41. The total rezoning area is approximately 9.84 acres, and it is a total of 3 folios. The property is vacant and undeveloped. The request is to rezone a portion of PD 06-1721, which currently has RSC 6 standards, to AS1 with a restriction. The rezoning will take 9.84 acres out of the 14.41 planned development acreage. As I mentioned before, there is a companion rezoning, which we'll hear next, which is 25-178. The applicant is seeking to use the property in accordance with AS1 standards use permissibility, and the request will also include a zoning condition to restrict a single access point to Riverview Drive for all the folios that we just mentioned. The property is consistent with the adjacent land uses to the north, south, east, and west. There's single family in the area. There's vacant property in the area, which also includes some agricultural zoning. To the west is the Showman's Club, which is a large planned development, which is essentially like an event center type of operation. The future land use category for this particular parcel is Res 4, and there's also Res 6 in the area. As I mentioned, the adjacent zonings include zoning which is equal to or much more intense than what we're seeking. We believe that the zoning is compatible with the uses in the area and also the zoning in the area, as they are equal to or more intense than what's located in the area. We have all approvals from the Planning Commission and from Development Services staff, and we have proposed a condition in working with the Transportation Department to limit all the folios to one single access point on Riverview Drive. We're available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, just want to clarify the acreage. You said, I think you said 9 acres or something?
9.84. I pulled that off the worksheet.
Okay, just the staff report says 12.84. So do we know which is right?
I'm assuming the worksheet was right in the record.
And this one is the 3 folios.
Yes, ma'am. I know the folios are right.
Okay. That's fine. I'll have staff speak to it maybe when they come up with the staff report.
I'm available for any other questions you may have.
That's all. Thank you so much. Be sure and sign in.
Thank you.
All right, Development Services.
Good evening. Logan McCaig, Development Services for rezoning 25-0177. The applicant is requesting to rezone from PD to AS1 with restrictions to allow for the construction of a single-family home and farm on the property. Access is to be restricted for all 3 parcels to a single point on Riverview Drive. The properties in question consist of 12.48 acres within the area of mixed and low, an area of mixed use with low and medium density properties, and small surrounding low-intensity businesses. The properties are currently within Plan Development 061721 on these parcels in question to allow up to a potential of 27 homes. By rezoning these parcels to AS1, it would be reducing the density which is present in the area. Staff finds the request approvable subject to the proposed restrictions of combined access onto Riverview Drive.
Okay, thank you. And then just back to my question, I guess, according to county records that staff found, the acreage is 12.84?
Based on the sum of the 3 properties on GIS.
Okay.
You can double check that to confirm it, but as far as we have right now, that's what we got in the report.
All righty, thank you. Planning Commission.
Willow Mickey, Planning Commission staff. The subject site is located south of Riverview Drive, east of Oak Street, and west of Henderson Street. The site is in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the Riverview, Gibsonton, and South Shore area-wide systems community plans. Generally, a rezoning request would need to satisfy the required minimum density criteria for the comprehensive plan. A traditional rezoning request is centered around buildable intensity or number of residential units, and typically the request is to intensify the zoning district. Within a standard rezoning request to rezone from PD to AS1 in the residential floor future land use, it would not be considered supportable because it lowers the density/intensity. However, due to the agricultural nature of the request, it is supported by staff. The comprehensive plan recognizes the importance of agriculture as an industry and valuable economic resource. Policy 29.1 promotes the development and maintenance of agricultural market centers to strengthen the agricultural economy, encouraging agricultural uses within and around such centers. And Policy 29.6 allows agricultural and agricultural-related uses to be permitted in non-rural land use categories. A rezoning to AS1 and the proposed agricultural uses would complement the residential development pattern for the area and is consistent with Objective 29 and Policy 29.6. Based upon the above considerations and the goals, objectives, and policies, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions set by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, don't hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
I'm checking on that acreage right now. Just one moment.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Sorry about that. Michelle Hyman, Development Services. What the planner was telling me is that the acreage that's on the staff report is for the whole existing PD, and the area that's encompassed by this rezoning is the 9.85.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. That makes perfect sense.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right. Applicant, anything further?
No, ma'am, not unless there's questions.
Okay, no questions for you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That closes the hearing on rezoning standard 25-0177.
Our next item is item C4, standard rezoning 25-0178. The applicant is requesting to rezone property zone PD 06-1721 to RSC 6R with restrictions. Logan McCaig with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Joe Moretti, 400 North Ashley, Gardner Brewer Hudson, representing the property owners of Moreno Properties and Global Eclipse. Madam Hearing Officer, this is the companion rezoning to the previous rezoning that you just heard. This is Plan Development 241778. It's located also on the south side of Riverview Drive, on the southwest corner of Oak Street and Riverview Drive, west of US Highway 41. The total rezoning area is approximately 4.54 acres, and there are 2 folios with this piece. The yellow on the site plan depicts the area that is just west of the site that we just talked about within the PD. This request is to rezone PD 06-1721, which has RSC 6 standards, to RSC 6 with a restriction. The restriction will relate to limiting access or prohibiting access to Riverview Drive, so the access will be gained along Oak Street. This will rezone the remainder of the 4.54 acres from the 14.41 acre plan development. The applicant seeks to use the property in accordance with RSC 6. They don't have any imminent plans. One of the folios, the southern folio, has a single family home existing, and the remainder of the site is vacant. The adjacent uses, actually there's really no change to the PD with the exception of the current PD had RSC 6. There was some relief on the front yard setback. This will adhere to all the RSC 6 standards with a restriction on access on Riverview, which was a concern, Riverview Drive. There's existing zoning in the area, which is RSC 6. The comp plan is Res 4 and does have Res 6 in the area. We understand that when this does go to subdivision, that it will be 4 units an acre max. So even though it does have the RSC 6, the development will be capped at 4 units per acre. And really, having said that, there's no change in the proposed development standards. It has all approvals. There's not really much more we can say about this unless you have any questions.
No questions. So as far as I understand, then these 2 rezonings are just eliminating that PD and they're going to standard zonings.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It has new ownership, and they either they're not sure what they want to do with the property, or they have different ideas about, different sides of it. So this was the best solution in the long run.
I understand.
And that's where we're at with it. So thank you very much, and I'll move out of the way unless you have any more questions.
No more questions for you. Thank you. Be sure and sign in for this one as well. All right, Development Services.
Good evening. Logan Cake, Development Services for rezoning 25-0178. The applicant is requesting to rezone from PD to RSC 6. The applicant has also proposed restrictions to the rezoning that would not allow access onto Riverview Drive. The properties, together totaling 4.5 acres, are located between Riverview Drive and the Alafaya River, about 2,500 feet east of US 41. The rezoning to RSC 6 in the coastal high hazard area would normally constitute a requirement that the property cannot have a potential maximum of more than 10 homes without rezoning into a PD. However, it was determined as the possible number of homes per the FLU density, wetlands, and other development standards is no greater than the currently approved 18 potential homes in the PD, described in PD 06-1721. The site development standards, would be the same as the 18 homes described in PD 06-1721. The site will have development standards comparable to the surrounding properties and density that be limited to 4 units per acre. Staff recommends approval subject to the following applicant proposed restrictions: that folios 445-0000 shall not have any direct access onto Riverview Drive.
All right, and I have the amended staff report. So that second restriction that did say density shall be limited to 4 units per acre, that's coming out?
Yes.
And the limitations to 4 units per acre is by virtue of?
It would pretty much just come down to the site review. Development standards would prohibit them to develop beyond that there.
I guess my question is, how will site review be made aware of that? That's if it's not a restriction.
Sure, Michelle Hong, Development Services, that restriction was reflecting that the future land use category, despite the RSC 6 development standards, would still limit them to 4 units per acre. We put that in and then removed it at the applicant's request, and I think he may have some new thoughts on that that he'll address in his rebuttal, but that was the reason for that.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Planning Commission.
Willa Mickey, Planning Commission staff. The subject site is north of the Alafia River, south of Riverview Drive and east of US Highway 41. The site is in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the Gibsonton, Riverview, and South Shore area-wide systems community plans. The site is in the residential district, which encourages attractive residential developments that complement the surrounding character and promote diversity in housing. Goal 6 of the Riverview Community Plan aims to reduce to the extent possible future land use map densities and intensities along the Alafia River and other natural resources such as open space. This goal's intent is to maintain, preserve, and protect the environmental quality and wildlife habitat of the Alafia River and surrounding watershed. The subject site is located just north along the Alafia River. The rezoning request proposes a reduction in use in overall lots in comparison to the existing PD zoning of the property. The proposal meets the intent of the Gibsonton and Riverview community plans. Overall, staff finds that the proposed use is an allowable use in the Res 4 category, is compatible with the existing development pattern found within the surrounding area, and does support the vision of the Gibsonton, Riverview, and South Shore area-wide systems community plans. The proposed rezoning would allow for development that is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the future land use element of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Based on the above considerations of the following goals, objectives, and policies, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning is consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions set by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, not hearing anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone.
I do. I do.
Okay, I'm sorry, there is a speaker.
So,
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Lisbeth Moreno, and my address is 777 North Ashby Drive, Tampa, Florida, zip code 33602. And I'm representing my dad, Felix Moreno. He is listening online. He does not agree with the restriction. He wants to be able to enter through Riverview Drive.
Okay, that's all that you have, ma'am?
Yes.
All right. We'll be back to you in a second, Mr. Moreno. All right, Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Moreno.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That is new information.
Okay.
There's basically 3 different property owner groups involved in this. My understanding was that the Moreno property, which is on Oak Street and Riverview Drive, that they were in agreement with the condition to restrict the access onto Riverview Drive, which contextually I will tell you that we did not see this when we saw the staff report. We had a discussion before the staff report came out. This is weeks ago that we had the discussion, and we had agreed that it wasn't necessary to have a condition stating that it was 4 units an acre because it would just be part of the subdivision review, which not having a chance to talk with any about that since we saw the staff report, which is really the reason why we didn't want to put it in. We're not an objection of that because it's restating the obvious. So if it's put in or if it isn't put in, it's going to be 4 units an acre, and we don't have any objection to that. But in light of the information that just came out from the Moreno property owner, I think we need to continue the case. Because my understanding, at least walking into the hearing, was that there was no problem with the restriction. In fact, I believe we need to continue both of the cases because they're really kind of tied together. So that's an interesting wrinkle.
Yeah, it's an interesting wrinkle because the other case is closed. But this one, we can entertain a request for continuance.
Well, they'll arrive at the board at the same time, so ultimately that will have to be managed. But I don't know how that's going to be managed with your review, though. That's the only problem.
County Attorney's Office, can we reopen the prior case since they're related? Are they related applicants?
No.
They're not related applicants.
There's 3 property owner groups, and I was the property owner that represented that they were in agreement was the Riverview Farms. They indicated that the Eclipse and Moreno was in agreement. I had no idea this was coming up.
I see. All right. Then I'm not inclined, unless I get advised otherwise by the County Attorney's Office, I'm not inclined to reopen the prior case.
Well, the fact that it's closed is what makes it different, because, I mean, you can continue something on the record, and there was no one who spoke at the last hearing. I think my concern is mainly sort of preserve the chain of notice. So for the case that we're on was noticed for this hearing, and so it can be continued to a later date and time certain without renotice. But the one that was closed, even in case there was just someone watching on YouTube, it would probably be cleanest for it to be renoticed when it came back. I know that's more than you were hoping for in this instance, but with the hearing closed, anyone who was interested who potentially then tuned out wouldn't realize that it's coming back. They would think it's coming to the board on April 8th.
Well, they have to land at the board together.
All right. I think that we're getting into the weeds here in talking about a case that's already closed.
Right.
So procedurally, are you requesting a continuance of this case? This is rezoning standard 25-0178.
Yes.
Okay. Then, Ms. Heinrich, would that be to the March hearing, or would that be later?
That would be to the March 24th hearing.
Okay.
And as Mr. Moretta stated, because these are in the same PD, they would need to be heard by the board together. So that's the most important part, is that the 0177 could be continued to the board date that the 7/8 will be scheduled for.
I understand. Okay. So I'm granting a continuance of rezoning standard 25-0178. It's being continued to the March 24th zoning hearing master meeting.
Thank you. And sorry, I apologize for that.
All right, that's fine. And we're closing the hearing on rezoning standard 25-0178. Next case.
Our next application is item C5, standard rezoning 25-0299. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from RSC 6 to RMC 12. Logan McCaig with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Master. My name is David Mechanic. I'm located at 305 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, here on behalf of the applicant. The staff report is very thorough. I will not necessarily repeat too much out of it, but this is a standard rezoning, so there's not a whole lot to talk about. The future land use surrounding this property is all Res 12, and we are asking for RMC 12 zoning for this particular property. The zoning surrounding this property is 12 units to the acre on all sides except for the parcel to the north. The staff report indicates that this would be compatible with the neighborhood and would provide for housing in the area, which is a goal of the comprehensive plan. Both staff, Hillsborough staff and Planning Commission staff, have indicated the proposed use is compatible and consistent with the comprehensive plan. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, have no questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Development Services? Oh, Mr. Mechanic, please sign in. Thank you.
Logan McCaig, Development Services, for rezoning 250299. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from RSC 6 to RMC 12 for the purposes of developing townhomes on the property. The property exists approximately 800 feet north of Westwater Avenues. The site is surrounded by either RMC 12 or planned developments approved for 12-unit and acre residential uses. Additionally, there is RSC 6 to the north side of the property. The site, consisting of approximately half an acre of land along North Hubbard Avenue, approximately 800 feet north of Westwaters Avenue, is currently zoned RSC 6. The site exists in an area of mixed-use, single-family, and multifamily development. The site is intended to be part of a larger multifamily development to the south of the site and is surrounded on all three sides by multifamily approved zoning, and again to the north by single-family zoning at RSC 6. Zoning of this property will bring additional density and housing to the area. Development characteristic would be in line with the current uses and density established in the neighborhood already. The development would comply with the development standards for RMC 12, including setbacks, heights, buffering, and screenings. Staff finds the request approvable.
All right, thank you. No questions for you. Planning Commission?
Good evening, Terry Royal, Planning Commission staff. The subject site is located south and West Humphrey Street, east of North Manhattan Avenue, and west of North Hoover Avenue. The subject site is in the urban service area and is not located within the limits of a community plan. The subject site has a future land use designation of residential 12. The residential 12 future land use category allows for the consideration of up to 12 dwelling units per gross acre. With 1.5 acres, the subject site can be considered for up to 18 dwelling units. The proposal meets the requirements of Objective 2.1 and its accompanying policies of the residential 12 future land use category. Based upon the above considerations and following goals, objectives, and policies, Planning Commission staff find the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the restrictions proposed by the County Development Services Department. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, and applicant, nothing further?
I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. This closes the hearing on rezoning standard 25-0299.
Our next application is item D1, Major Mod 24-1110. This is an application requesting a major modification to PD 03-0753. I have reviewed this for Development Services and will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation. And also I'll note that this does have a companion comprehensive plan amendment. Therefore, this will be heard rather than the 4/8 hearing, it will be heard on the 4/10 hearing at 6 p.m.
All right, thank you. Applicant?
Yes, Madam Hearing Officer, Todd Pressman, 202nd Avenue South, number 451, St. Petersburg. If I may, before I launch into this, an item came to our attention that I'd like to ask the staff about one condition that may require us to not hear this tonight, if I may, which is one condition, if I may go ahead.
Go ahead and present your question. Yes, please.
I believe it's condition number 6 refers to a requirement to be 450 feet away from residential property, where of course we show that differently on the PD plan. And there was some emails discussions about a waiver, but I don't see a waiver in the staff report specifically, so I don't know if that's on the table or not, because certainly we need to have that.
Michelle Hung, Development Services, yeah, that waiver is reflected in the distance that you just mentioned, the 450 to residentially zoned and used property.
So a waiver to the 450 feet?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you for that deference, hearing officer. So if I just, I probably won't need all the time, but about a minute has elapsed. Let me go to the beginning of the PowerPoint. Here we are, no. Can you start me here, sir? Yeah. Thank you. That's not the first page, though, sir. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Madam Hearing Officer and staff, Todd Pressman, again, 202nd Avenue South, number 451, St. Petersburg. This is Major Map 241110. We are in the Sefner Mango community area. This is a site of 14.42 acres. The site is located at Kingsway and Highway 92, as you see here. It's next door to the Burnett High School and residential to the north and east. Quick picture of the Burnett School. Now, there's two options to the major modification. This is really the crux of the zoning issue. The first is to keep the current entitlement of 156,816 square feet of commercial uses, and to add a second option of a Veterans Administration Community Living Center. I usually hold this piece of information till later, but it is such a critical and hard-hitting piece that really displays the difference between the two options, which the option that's before you tonight is reduction of 24-hour two-way volume of 14,886 trips, a reduction of 1,249 PM peak. And that is, again, expresses by Transportation Department of the county of the reduction of impacts of the second option proposed tonight. So two options. One is keep the current entitlement. The other is, to keep the current entitlement, which will include a wide range of commercial uses, large-scale retail, domestic car sales, service, repair, food, fast food establishments, hospitals, freestanding emergency rooms. These would be 24-hour-a-day uses, major minor vehicle repair, tire repair, car wash, are currently approved uses, of which we're adding a second option to. Development Services supports, transportation has no objection. A little explanation is the Veterans Administration has built throughout the country a geriatrics and extended care use, which primarily is two uses. It is a nursing, heavy intensive nursing use, and a, as we call it, a community residential home or assisted living facility, both under one home. And these are just some pictures just to get you a little bit more familiar with it of different CLCs throughout the country. And you begin to see some of the nursing elements on the right there, a little bit here. You'll note at the top there's a element for patients to be lifted. You'll see there's tracks that go into the bathroom. You can see the shower element. They serve all the service agencies and our departments of defense veterans throughout the country. This is the existing PD showing as 156,816 square foot commercial general uses. This is the proposed PD plan, which would house the proposed use. Current future land use map does show a PQP next door, which is where the school is located, which does allow hospitals. PQP allows for consideration of major existing and program government-owned facilities, along with other public uses. PQP is an unbridled, unlimited, and unrestrained density, impacts and intensity. They're assigned as they come through. The Planning Commission does look at what the surrounding uses are, but they're none assigned under their official reference. Looking at the zoning map, there's a strong corridor along Highway 92 of CG, which again, this site is zoned as well. And pulling further back, you can see that corridor is very strong in that respect. Highway 92 is a state principal arterial roadway, as indicated on the roadway functional classifications. It carries anywhere from 12,400 to 9,600 vehicles per day. And along Highway 92 are very intensive retail commercial uses. Zoning staff recommendation notes the surrounding area consists of single-family residential, commercial, residential support uses. Importantly, this use is classified as a multifamily use. It is not recognized or interpreted or determined to be a commercial use. It is a multifamily use under the code. So the compatibility, as we look at it under the CLC, is that it's very quiet. All the uses are interior. Uses are elderly veterans or veterans recuperating, short-term and long-term. Low trips, multifamily, as I said, defined by the code. All that is comparable to 156,000 and additional 156,000 change commercial uses. Now, under Sefner-Mango Community Plan, it does refer to intensity along US 92 and Martin Luther King. It refers to commercial development, but that refers to intensity of that roadway, recognizing, again, the character of 92, recognize the commercial character, and support infill development and redevelopment within the USA. Also, policy 2.1.6 refers to offer incentives for higher land use densities and intensities along transit emphasis local service corridors. Policy 16.2 requires gradual transitions of intensities between uses, and we think that applies in regard to the school and the residential, because the school is very intensive with 900 and some students and staff. This would be a structure that would transition and buffer all the residential uses to the east. 733 students and staff members. With great respect to the Planning Commission, I would say that their analysis does not include or go through the comparable allowable that the zoning staff does. And that's highlighted by the 14,886 reduced trips. The zoning staff report is a comparable between these two where the Planning Commission does not delve into that direction. We feel, with respect to the Planning Commission, it does not fully evaluate and include the PDQ on the neighboring west, which allows virtually the same uses. We're providing a transition. And there is a note, this is just a note about access to the north on Funnel Green into the residential. Access points have been, in a sense, removed because of new policies in terms of where those access points will be made. With that, I do have one letter to submit into the record, and this is an important letter, hearing officer. This is from Tom Fletcher. He carries a number of official titles. One is the Secretary of Veterans Council of Hillsborough County, Incorporated. He's the chair of the Veterans Memorial Park and Museum Committee, Incorporated. He's a volunteer coordinator for the Veterans Memorial Park and Rear Admiral Leroy Collins Jr. Veterans Museum. And he's the chair of the Memorial Committee of the VCHC. And in his email, he notes to yourself, letter of support in regard to this application for a Veterans Administration Nursing Assisted Living Facility at this location. Quote, we cannot understate the need and demand the service for this facility would provide our outstanding veterans at this location in this vicinity. This facility would allow our loved ones to remain in their community while getting their tremendous services that are so badly needed. There is no question that the location facility would be an asset to the area. Being all interior with aged and recuperating veterans, the use would be extremely quiet, generate minimal vehicle trips, and be conducive and fit well with the immediately surrounding community. Finally, this community living center is long overdue for Hillsborough County. Given that, I think this is an outstanding fact, Hillsborough County is the most veteran populated in the state. In addition, this location affords easy access to and from the James Haley VA Medical Center, located a few miles west in Tampa. So for the purposes of speaking, please acknowledge his interest and support, which I'll put in the record. Thank you.
Mr. Pressman, could you please address further the issues that the Planning Commission raised regarding compatibility and neighborhood protection? What, I guess, mitigation in the site plan to address those issues is there?
We have increased the screening levels wherever there's adjacent residential, and along with that, I think the critical element is that it is deemed to be a multifamily use. So under the code, it is a residential to residential use. Additionally, which I mentioned a number of times. I won't beat it hard, but the fact is that it is a assisted living facility, a nursing facility. It is quiet. All the uses are interior. So we don't see an incompatibility in regard to the use as it's considered to be and as it will be active. I think it's an unusual circumstance, again, not to go deeply into it, that it's a unique circumstance that we have a use that would be, I will say tremendously, many times more impacting. And this option would, if exercised, would eliminate it.
I'm trying to get a good look at the site plan. So but both options are going to remain part of this zoning if it's approved, right?
That's correct. Correct.
Under the existing zoning, I'm not sure if I'm looking at the site plan correctly, but it looks like the commercial envelope is more toward the southwest. So it would be really in that corner, southwest corner on Hillsborough Avenue, or 92, and towards where the public use is that correct?
Are you referring to the current entitlement?
Yes, yes.
The current, well, if I may, well, this is part of the record. This is the plan. So along Kingsway, if you can see, and again, this is in the record, this is conceptual stormwater. So the general building area is the darkened area. So it is not flush into the intersection corner. It's on the other side of the stormwater area. The darkened area is the general building area to be specifically determined. So we created an envelope where the building will go. So as you look to the north, there is a 20-foot landscape buffer B, which we've increased the screening, then a 50-foot building setback minimum, and then a parking area. So you have, from the building, you have parking area, you have internal pedestrian and vehicular circulation, then you have the 50-foot building setback minimum and a 20-foot landscape buffer.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. No further questions for you.
Thank you.
All right, and be sure to sign in. All right, Development Services.
Michelle Hiring, Development Services. As you heard, this is a major modification request to PD 03-0753 with a companion comprehensive plan amendment, which is 23-09, which is requesting a future land use category change from Res 4 to CMU 12 for the subject site only. The CPA will be heard with this major modification at the April 10th, 2025 BOCC CPA public hearing at 6 p.m. The subject site is located at the northeast corner of US Highway 92 and Kingsway Road in Seffner. The area is developed with residential, commercial, and residential support uses. This portion of the PD is approved for slightly over 156,000 of limited CG uses, and some of the uses that could be developed under that option, which aren't currently limited, includes car sales lot, retail shopping center, hotels and drive-throughs, things of that nature. The request is to add a second development option for the subject area to allow a VA nursing home and community residential home. And this is a quasi-commercial multifamily use. The predominant use of the facility would be community residential home, which is, per the code, would be looked at as like a multifamily. The nursing home component would not. That would be a commercial use. And that would currently be permitted. It's mainly the community residential home is the reason mainly for the modification. And we do view both the nursing home and community residential homes as not as intense as what's currently approved under the current development option. The proposed maximum height is 50 feet, which is the same maximum height permitted under the current option. However, the applicant has committed to a greater setback and height limitation different than what is currently approved. The current option would allow a 20-foot high building at a 20-foot setback, and it would then increase in height as the setback increases Under this option, the applicant proposes a minimum 50-foot setback with a height of 35 feet, and then it would be allowed to increase to a maximum of 50 feet as it increases in setback. This will reduce the building placement that would be allowed closer to the residential at any height. And as you heard from the applicant, additionally required buffering will be provided, and enhanced screening along the north and east is proposed by way of a closer planting of the tree plantings. The code requires 20-foot centers, and the applicant is proposing 15-foot centers. The community residential home portion of the request does require 2 waivers from the Land Development Code. First, to the minimum distance to single-family residential, and second, to the residential appearance. The LDC requires a minimum distance of 500 feet to single-family zoning, and this facility with that setback could be located at least 450 feet from single-family to the north and east. Given that the site is currently approved for more intense uses and located at a commercial intersection, and that the applicant has offered height setback restrictions and enhanced buffering, staff does not object to that waiver request. Secondly, in regards to residential appearance, this use is currently permitted with a special use in the agricultural and multifamily zoning districts, which is the reason for that compatibility requirement to have the residential use. Per the applicant, what he's advised us is that no final building design has been finalized, and therefore they could not in good faith commit to any type of residential appearance. Given that, and the same reasons previously noted in terms of the location and what the applicant is offering in terms of compatibility, staff does not object to that waiver request. Staff notes that the Planning Commission staff has found the request in CPA inconsistent. However, no other reviewing agencies offered objections, and staff does recommend approval subject to proposed conditions. And those 2 proposed conditions do limit the number of beds to 206, and the maximum square footage for the nursing facility at 50,000 square feet. And this is in keeping with the intensity maximums of the CMU 12 land use category. And it is limited to a facility operated by the VA per the conditions of approval. I'm available for any questions you have.
Okay. Would you just clarify the waiver for the distance to, the non-ag single-family zoning? Is the request to waive the whole 500-foot distance requirement?
Correct, with the closest being the residential that's to the immediate north and east.
Okay.
I believe there may be additional residential within that radius, but that would be the closest residential areas.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Planning Commission?
Good evening, Turk Royal Planning Commission staff. The subject site is in the urban service area where, according to Objective 1 in the future land use element, 80% of the county's growth is to be directed. Policy 1.4 requires all new developments to be compatible with the surrounding area, noting that compatibility does not mean the same as, rather it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals in maintaining the character of existing development. Flu Objective 17 outlines that certain non-residential uses, including residential support facilities, are allowed in residential neighborhoods to directly serve the population. This objective further states that these uses must be located and designed in a manner to be compatible with the surrounding residential development pattern. Flu Policy 17.1 states that residential support uses must be designed in an intensity and scale that is compatible with the surrounding land use zoning. The applicant is proposing a 200,000 square foot building that is 50 feet in height on the eastern portion of the 14.42 acre site. The site and height of the proposed building would be out of scale with the existing single-family residential development directly adjacent to the subject site to the north and east. In addition, according to comments made by Hillsborough County Development Services Department, the application needs a distance separation waiver from commercial, and it will not comply with the Land Development Code requirement to be residential in appearance. The LDC requirement requiring to a residential design of the building helps keep these types of buildings in scale and design that is complementary to the surrounding residential development pattern. Therefore, the proposed modification is inconsistent with Flu Policy 1.4, Flu Objective 17, and Flu Policy 17.1. The proposal does not meet the intent of neighborhood protection policies outlined in the future land use element, including policy direction in the community design component, Flu Objective 16, CDC Objective 12-1, CDC Policy 12-1.4, CDC Objective 17-1, and CDC Policy 17.1-4. Policy 16.1 requires development in residential areas to be limited to neighborhood scale. The subject site is adjacent to established residential neighborhoods directly to the north and east. The proposed 200,000 square foot building with a height of 50 feet does not align with the development pattern of the surrounding area and significantly out of scale with the surrounding single-family residential neighborhood. Flu Policy 16.5 states that the development of higher intensity non-residential land uses that are adjacent to established neighborhoods shall be restricted to collectors and arterials in locations external to established developing neighborhoods. Although the site is being accessed from North Kingsway Road, the subject site also has access from the north from Funnel Green Drive, a local roadway. The proposal is not consistent with Objective 16 and its accompanying policies. Overall, staff finds that the proposed use is unallowable use in the CMU 12 future land use category, but is too intensive in scale and design and therefore is not compatible with the existing development pattern found within the surrounding area. The proposed modification will now allow for development that is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Based on those considerations and following goals, objectives, and policies, Plan Commission staff finds the proposed major modification inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
All right. I guess just one question for Planning Commission too, and I think the point was kind of made in the staff report and also the applicant that the existing approval is fairly intense, and compared to that, this is maybe less intense. Does Planning Commission actually look at that, or just looks at this one proposal? I mean, not comparing the two?
Yes, we looked at both past and present, but the current application is still out of character, and that's what our finding is based off of.
Okay, thank you. I understand. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? I don't. In support.
Good evening. My name's Joe Aletto. My address is 6432 Sunset Bay Circle in Apollo Beach. I am here representing the Military Affairs Committee for the Central Hillsborough County Chamber of Commerce, and we're here to support the concept of putting a VA nursing and assisted living facility because of the need primarily. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the closest VA facility similar to this is in Lutz, and as you heard, the population of veterans that we have in this area of Hillsborough County is tops in the state, and it's just a way that we, I think, as a community need to give back to these veterans who have given to us. So again, I'm here to support this program, and thank you very much. Do I need to sign in?
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in support of this application?
Good evening. My name is Mike Odell. I reside at 12205 Shelby Drive, Riverview, Florida. I am a disabled American veteran from the Navy, was medically retired, and I unfortunately will probably be in one of these places at some point before I pass. I can't say enough about how much our veterans need something like this in Hillsborough County. We have tried to get this done in Hillsborough County for more than 15 years, and I think it's about time that we took care of our veterans and allowed this to happen. Like Tom Fletcher had said in his letter, and it's been said multiple times, we are not only the largest veterans population in the state of Florida, but we are the fastest growing of veterans in this particular county. Everybody's aware of how much growth we've had in this county and how it continues to grow. And a lot of those folks are veterans that are retiring and staying here in this area from MacDill Air Force Base. And it's just going to continue to grow even more. And I would really like to see this go through. I've been to facilities like this before. They're not a high impact as far as traffic and noise. It's very mellow, and I don't think that there would be any issues with a lot of complaints of people not being happy with once it was done, because it's minimal traffic that would be impacted. It would be maybe 15 minutes to get one of our veterans if something happened to the VA. I couldn't think of a better location than where this would be for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please sign in with the clerk before you sit down. Thank you. All right, is there anyone else here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Michelle Van Loan, 130 Alina Sky Drive, Seffner, Florida, 33584. Real quick into your last question about the existing density of the current option A and the PD, I feel like we're only given these two options. If you don't give us a 200,000 square foot building at 50 feet high, then we're going to do this to you, and this is what you get. We are not against a VA assisted living facility or any other, but we have yet to see the applicant provide us any documentation about why this building has to be 28% greater than the 156,000 square feet that he is currently allowed, or why it has to be at 50 feet high. So again, I just want to make it clear, our comments are not about the nature of the use of this building. The other thing I want to point out, in all of the very pretty PowerPoint, there was not one exterior picture of that building. I did submit a letter that's in the record. I have a handout of that I can also submit to the record. Our biggest point is that the scale and structure, it's not that this is only incompatible with our neighborhood, it is incompatible with 196 assisted living facilities within 15 miles of our zip code, not just of this property, of our zip code. According to the healthfinder.fl.gov, which finds you the licensed AFL facilities within our area, within 15 miles of our zip code, there are 196. I did get rid of one of them that said 0 beds. Of them, this at 200,000 square feet would be larger than the largest existing facility at 190,000 square feet. I listed the top 6 up there. The top one is adjacent to a residential area. I'm sorry, that one is, it's a multifamily, and it is on a corner, and it is its sister facility that is a residential area. The second largest one, not next to a residential area. The third one, not next to a residential area. The next one is, except for the fact that it is built like a residential building, and it has, as you can see right here, as you can see in the bottom picture, it is landscaped and architecturally designed to look like an apartment building. The next one is, again, not next to a residential building, and the very last one is only a 1-story building as approved, not the 3-story. The 3-story is at the street. So this facility, if approved, would have a 50-foot building next to 22 single-family residential lots. The only one up there is at Bayshore, and those 5 single-family residential lots were built 10 years after that apartment complex for seniors.
You can pull that microphone over, so if you need to.
These are my last pictures. These are examples of VA their community living facilities. And these are ones built in Florida. There are about 7 or 8 of them. I just picked some because others were huge campuses. So again, my point is to say Not that we don't want a VA, but we do not need 200,000 square feet. They have not presented any evidence that the VA is requiring them to have 200,000 square feet. These types of facilities are not compatible not only with our neighborhood, but the entire Sefner-Nango area. If you want to look for just a 3 or 4 story building at I-75 and MLK, again within the area of the highway, is a 3-story apartment building, again that looks residential. At Mango Road and I-4, where the closest CMU 12 is located for that density, there are 2 hotels, 3-story and 4-story. When you look at the chart that your Planning Commission put up, there is no CMU 12 anywhere on that chart, and not even any kind of transitional zoning. So we really don't appreciate feeling like we're being blackmailed, that if we don't accept what's being asked, that we are against veterans, that we are against a assisted living facility, or that we need to be protected from a middle school that most people in the area chose to move near for their families because it is a residential neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there another speaker? Please come forward. And ma'am, be sure and sign in. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Grace McComas. I live at 805 Old Darby Street in Sefner. I'm here to support the comprehensive plan and our Sefner-Mango community plan as always. Where we live in our community is immaterial. The decision for land use in our community is a privilege, a right, and a responsibility for all residents to propose or oppose. We were dealing with 2 options on this application. However, it is apparent that a VA community living center with 206 beds referred to by Mr. Pressman as a hospital will no longer be a requested option 2. Since the applicant did seek the restriction that a VA hospital would be the only permissible use other than the CG zoning the property has had since 2003 as a condition of approval for the 03-0753 zoning. The applicant should be held to that request, and CG zoning should be the only request, and the recent added proposals should be eliminated. I'd like to thank the vets for their service. My husband's one too. I would have liked to support a Veterans Administration facility. Unfortunately, the VA has its requirements for their buildings, which the size of this property by county standards cannot meet. And the proposed ROW for 92 makes the acreage smaller. To this date, nowhere in the optics record is there any documentation saying that a bid for a VA care center has been granted to this property or pending, or that a nursing home, convalescent home, extended care facility will be a VA facility. There are several county rules on setbacks, parking, etc., that are required by our codes that are trying to be changed. The Sefner-Mango Community Plan states building height will be a max of 35 feet. I am opposed to the 50-foot stipulation made by the applicant. I am also opposed to the variances being requested for distance to single-family homes and residential style that are established in the comprehensive plan and the Sefner-Mango Community Plan, and the use of the exit through the north boundary onto local roads within the existing PD. I think that's very inconvenient for those 2 homes on that corner to have more traffic coming through their front yards, side yards and front yards. They'll have no privacy. No greater density should be allowed in this suburban transitional area. The area is mostly residential, as he showed on the picture. We would like to have some definite restrictions of approval that would be in line with the Sefner-Mango Community Plan, commercial CG that would provide a benefit to the community and the surrounding homeowners and neighbors in this quiet suburban area, and specified in the comprehensive plan. And the Sefner-Mango Community Plan Goal 2 states enhance community character and ensure quality residential and non-residential development. Goal 3, commercial development should be directed to the US 92 and MLK Boulevard corridors which are clearly stated west of State Road 579. Also, the buildings that would be appropriate in height and of compatible appearance in accordance to the Sefner Mango Community Plan and the Comp Plan. Mr. Pressman has stated he would comply with these requirements in previous narratives and statements, now asking for a change in height and appearance. We would like to have the stated original conditions and the following restrictions added due to the suburban residential lifestyles we desire and stated in our community plan. No metal buildings. No fast food or drive-through fast food. No vape or marijuana stores or clinics. And definitely no gas stations, car repair shops, car sales, or car storage. No one in Sefner wants that. We are familiar with the current Evo Motors property and the semi-trucks unloading cars onto Highway 92. And FDOT has placed signs all along the section of that road to avert the unloading situation. Cars are still unloaded on Highway 92. Their original property on Highway 92 has adequate entry and exit to the property, and that's where the unloading should be done, not holding up the ambulance when it's trying to get out of the fire station,
ma'am,
because they can't reach it.
I just want to, I want to hear your testimony, but opposition speakers are allotted 15 minutes.
Right.
And I think there's another speaker. I don't know if there, is it just one more? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a little over 5 minutes left. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. The current property has been addressed with this FDOT as another car lot. FDOT has stated several requirements needed due to the close proximity to the middle school for Evo Motors and semi-traffic and turning problems on Kingsway Road. In addition, the not yet funded ROW of widening of 92 have specific requirements. A car lot is an inappropriate, inconsistent, incompatible use of the suburban transitional site. We are very afraid of this happening. We'd like to see it stated that it will not happen. The newest request is for a community residential home, nursing and convalescent and extended care facility, and is not a compatible use or size within the property's allowances, and would be the most intense use on Highway 92 east of Parsons Avenue. Not compatible with the future land use element, the land development regulations, and development should not be approvable that is inconsistent with the plan objective 9.2. We are here to ask for your strong recommendation of denial, given the frequent times the applicant has stated the restriction of his option 2, hospital-only permissible use, or CG, and the fact that at present no VA hospital bid has been approved. This rezoning request is not compatible, consistent, transitional by the comprehensive plan, codes and policies, or the intent of the Sefner Mango Community Plan. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me, ma'am?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have a little over 3 minutes, about 3.5 minutes left.
I was not sworn in, ma'am. Can I get
All right, thank you. Please raise your hand to be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right, thank you, and we need your name and address first, please.
My name is Michelle Miles, 412 Vinekeeper Court, Sefner, Florida, and I am here to strongly oppose 241110 development because I believe this is to be a location within the Pemberton Creek watershed based on the Hillsborough County Water Atlas by inputting their address of 1005 North Kingsway Drive. Thank you so much. The county is currently mid-2025, we'll be doing a countywide watershed model migration and integration with SwiftMud. This project will create a combined basin for Hillsborough River, Duck Pond, East Lake, Tampa Bypass Canal, Pemberton Creek watershed, and also other basins, EPA stormwater management models Right now, I believe by everything I have seen, the SCADA system, it's a data SCADA. This is from the CIP on the county's website. There's a discrepancy on what's happened. So many people have flooded that have never flooded before. This site is across the street from Shangri-La subdivision, and they were recently devastated after Hurricane Milton, as well as homes that are highlighted in orange. And this is all from the Hillsborough County Water Atlas map. Every one of these orange, Baker Creek, Campbell Branch, Flint Creek, Hickory Lakes Manor, Long Pond, which is Hunter's Cove, and that is on Seffner Valrico, all the way to Valrico Road, Lake Thonona-Sassa, Valrico Oaks, Walden Lakes, and I live in Lake Weeks. It is by section, town, range. And again, every one of these areas are part of a watershed which go together. These homes right here, this was several hours after Hurricane Milton. There were 12 homes along Chastain Road, and across the street on Vinewood Drive, where Lake Weeks is at, this is, you can see people on a canoe. They were completely flooded. It was devastated. It was horrible for days. And this was after the storm, hours after. Here is another home. And both of those homes and those residents have been there for over 40 years, 50 years. 49 years, they just celebrated 50 years of marriage. This is down Vinewood Drive. Flooding occurred in areas that has never occurred, and I do realize, please, I realize that. Can I continue, or I'm done?
Can you finish up in a minute? 1 minute?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you going to submit all these documents into the record?
I actually, I provided, I didn't provide these pictures. I can provide these pictures, yes, ma'am. And I can also provide this. Yes, ma'am, I certainly can. August and November 2024, Todd Pressman held 2 different pre-application meetings with FDOT staff. Since the first meeting was to expand the Evo Motors used car lot, that leads me to believe that truly the expanding of Evo Motors car lot is their true intent. Mr. Pressman has been lobbying you and others, claiming the possibility of building a veterans housing, yet their first plan submitted, again, was Evo Motors. We need you, please, to stand up to business owners on our behalf. Thank you in advance for denying and your consideration, being considerable public stewards by protecting our county schools, natural resources, and allowing our children and community to continue to flourish in a healthy and prosperous manner. I thank you so much.
All right, thank you, ma'am, and be sure to sign in with the clerk, and the clerk will take those documents as well.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. And I did submit a letter that had some of this.
And I will see that in the record.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, development services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and Mr. Pressman? And in your comments, Mr. Pressman, I did notice that I think one of the conditions of approval, one of the listed conditions is that the proposed community residential home would be operated by the Veterans Administration. So I guess that was a question I had. Is this request for a community residential home, or very specifically a community residential home operated by the VA?
Absolutely 100% clear in the filing application that this would be a Veterans Administration Community Living Center. That's clearly stated in the narrative, and I included excerpts from online of VA facilities, what they are and what they do. They're absolutely clear, no question about it.
All right, thank you. Proceed with your comments. I just had that question for you.
Yes, I think it's very important, with great respect to the ladies that spoke, I think it's critically important that we understand what their living perspective is. The first lady that spoke, let me see here. First lady that spoke is located, as I used a locational website, 1 mile to the south, almost down by Hillsborough Avenue. As we look at impacted citizens, typically through this discourse of cases, my opinion is that would not be an impacted neighbor. I will tell you that we have sent a total of 482 notices over many different times, some for the future land use, many for the zoning. And I wasn't able to check this young lady's address. Outside of her address, we do not have a single nearby neighbor that has come forward to oppose this request. I think that's a tremendous fact, along with the fact that we've posted, well, not I, but the county has posted 2 big, huge yellow signs on a vacant property that cannot possibly be missed by tens of thousands of persons passing this site. The second woman, the young woman, Grace, who's actually a friend, Grace spoke quite a bit. She as well, on the location website I pulled up, is 1.4 miles away. So in my opinion, she would not be an impacted direct owner, property owner either. Certainly a citizen who has an opinion, but not someone who is directly affected by many of the issues that are discussed here today. I was only able to pull up one item that the last woman, with respect, put forward a lot of flooding issues in the vicinity. That was at Chastain and Vinwood, which was, as far as I could tell, a couple miles away. It was impossible for me to determine those. However, as you're well aware, this site will have to go through complete permitting and review by all the agencies, all the departments, and we've already shown, our engineers already shown, a large stormwater area. I just will say quickly, I think you're well aware the characterization with respect to the first woman that spoke is not a blackmail, it is a second option. And I would suggest in very positive terms that the immediate neighbors would be much happier with this use than a 24-hour Pep Boys with open bays right next to their home, or perhaps a couple car washes running 24 hours a day, or many of the other commercial uses. I think that's a real simple, easy determination to make. And then the last thing I'll say is, with the greatest respect to Planning Commission Tyreek, and I do mean that, as I read their report, they do mention there's an option, but as I read their analysis, I don't see an analysis comparing the two. And I think that's an important, critical determination as to how the zoning department looked at it. So with that, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This will close the hearing on major modification 24-1110.
Our next application is item D2, PD rezoning 24-1135. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from ASC1 and RSC4MH to plain development. Tanya Chappella will provide staff comments after the applicant's presentation. And this case is also tied to a comprehensive plan amendment, and together they will be heard at the April 10th, 2025 CPA board meeting at 6 p.m.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Master. My name is Ben Dachapali with the Bradley, Arendt, Bolton Cummings Law Firm, located at 1001 Water Street, Tampa, Florida, 33602. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Provident Partners. I'm also here on behalf of my law partner, Gina Grimes, who unfortunately had a minor medical emergency and could not be here. But together, we represent the applicant in their rezoning PD application 24-1135 from ASC1 and RSC4 to PD. That being said, also with me are Ben Stewart and Scott Martin with Provident Partners, who will be presenting a PowerPoint outlining the PD proposal and the bases for the approval that we seek today. With that being said, I'd like to invite Mr. Stewart and Mr. Martin to present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. In addition to our presentation, we have a document to attach, which is from the Planning Commission that was issued on August 15th, 2022, that we'll touch on a little bit later on. So this is for PD 241135 from ASC 1 to RSC 4 to PD for Mango Logistics Park, which is along County Road 579, also known as Mango Road, and Pruitt Road. So for our proposed project, we have a rezone RZPD for our project of up to 532,000 square feet for limited light industrial uses. Development Services has given us a recommendation and is approvable subject to conditions. And we have fortunate to have Planning Commission recommendation with a consistent ruling with the comp plan. The companion LIP comp plan amendment was approved and given a consistent ruling on November 18th of 2024. And next we will go over a description of the surrounding areas with the existing development trend and existing uses. The subject property is north of I-4 and Seffner and is comprised of 2 parcels located at the northeast corner of County Road 579 and Pruitt Road. Parcel 1 is the large parcel that you'll see there at 6625 County Road 579. That's 37.28 acres. Parcel 2 is 1627 Davis Pool Road for at 1.0 acres for a total of 38.29 acres. So with our subject property, we do have a very large site at 38 acres, which allows us to have large setbacks and to help us meet setback and buffer measures, compatibility measures. As we'll see later, we do have a much lower FAR than what would be typically permitted under our application. And in addition to that, transportation improvements. So the existing end use currently is owned by Florida Biosolids. And it is currently operated as a sewage and septic treatment facility. So when you're on site, there is no question what product is being taken care of out there. They do a great job, but while this is considered an agricultural use, the operation, the buildings, the equipment, and the odor from the facility has an impact on the area similar to that of an heavy industrial use. So we'll go through a few pictures that were taken at the property to show you what's there. So you do have entrances, variety of power equipment, above and below ground storage tanks, processing the materials, trucks, pipes. Again, you'll see we have a picture of a truck here. You have trucks coming, bringing in the product. You have trucks going all day, also bringing product in and out. The adjacent use to the immediate east of our property is a yard waste processing facility. This is classified as currently as an agricultural use. However, its operation and impacts is similar to that of a commercial and industrial use, with the trucks going in there and machinery working on site. As you'll look at an aerial, again, we want to paint a picture of the overall use for what's going on in this area. And so you will see to the south of our site, to the immediate east, and to the north of our site off of 579, current commercial and industrial type uses. I won't run through every single one of these, but again, I know you're very familiar with the area where you have RV dealerships, truck dealerships, hotels. I will point out that there's a quarter mile of the south of our site is a 300,000 square foot industrial facility that would be very similar to the type of product that we would be building out there. Again, farther north on the site, along Mango Road is a truck terminal, which I'll show you here. So this is important. So the history of the area. So this is in regarding to the Planning Commission memorandum that was issued to the BOCC that evaluated the future land use pattern for the area. This memo recognized that larger parcels along County Road 579 corridor from I-4 north are predominantly developed with non-residential uses that also include heavy industrial uses. It's recognized earlier in the study that the Taylor Road landfill is there, which presented concerns with future residential development due to potential well contamination. And within the past 5 years, the BOCC has approved 2 comprehensive plan amendments as to the same comprehensive plan category proposed for our subject property, LIP. And the first one that I'll reference is, again, that 300,000 square foot industrial facility 0.25 miles south of our facility, which is currently occupied. And the second is another facility, again, that same 0.25 miles south of us, that is currently undeveloped. So there are clear trends in the area for heavy commercial and light industrial uses. The 2 previous comprehensive plan amendments, existing broad and mixed use of industrial and commercial uses, and the Planning Commission's observations and conclusions from their memo. So Thonatasasa Community Plan specifically allows for commercial uses along State Road 579 south of Pruitt, south of Pruitt Road to I-4. So the policy dates back 30 years. Our subject property abuts this intersection, and CR 579 in Pruitt is now a major intersection with the county's CIP and is slated for a major transportation capital improvement. So commercial uses are now appropriate for this site pursuant to this policy. And so this slide relates to is with the future of Hillsborough County with the land use calculations that states that this land use category is used to designate for land use plan map those areas in the county potentially suitable for industrial activities but are located outside concentrated industrial designated areas or in areas where the need for a site plan would be beneficial to ensure land use compatibility. Furthermore, this land use plan category will be used in transportation routes, in areas where there is not a concentration of industrial uses, and in areas where various concerns of impact of adjacent development can be addressed through site planning, which we are doing with this. With the PD proposal, with our LIP comp plan category, it is a limited use to 4 light industrial uses that you'll see here: warehouse with or without distribution, wholesale distribution, manufacturing, processing, assembly, and accessory open storage. So we are proposing up to 532,000 square feet. The FAR is limited to 0.32, less than half of the max square footage of 0.75 permitted under LIP. Residential use is not appropriate given the proximity to the Taylor Road landfill. The area is a rural service area, but already served by public water and wastewater. Here's the site plan that we have been working at diligently and making adjustments in consultation with development services, getting feedback in terms of buffers and setbacks. This is some renderings of type of products that we build, similar to that property, the 300,000 square foot property south of us. So proposed compatibility measures. We've worked with building setbacks to the north, 125 feet off Davis Pool Road, to the east, 95 feet off the adjacent yard waste processing facility, to the south 90 feet from Pruitt, west 94 feet from Mango Road. Height, 54 feet max, complies with the 2-to-1 additional building setback for heights over 20 feet. Buffering and screening, to the north 50-foot buffer type C screening, east 15-foot buffer type B screening, south 30-foot buffer C screening, and to the west an 8-foot buffer type B screening and fencing adjacent to potential accessory open storage. That fencing would be used only if we have the accessory open storage at that point. Requested variation to reduce the 20-foot buffer along Mango Road to 8 feet to allow for 18-foot wide area to be dedicated as future right-of-way for Mango Road improvements. Mango Road improvements include 10-foot right-of-way multi-purpose trail on the east side of Mango Road. The variation is mitigated through enhanced design features, including a 5.35-acre stormwater retention pond adjacent to Mango Road. We have a number of transportation improvements along Mango Road, one full access to Mango Road. Pruitt Road will have one full access and one right-only access to Pruitt Road. There'll be roadway improvements along Mango Road that I won't run through every single one of these, but roadway improvements to Pruitt Road, we've been working closely with Michael Yates with Palm Traffic to make sure that we are meeting all the requirements. And this is important to point out. We will not have any access off of Davis Pool Road. We will not be touching that at all. And there'll be a 5-foot dedicated right-of-way, and we'll install a 5-foot sidewalk on the south side. There are transportation administrative variances along the administrative variances were determined approvable by the county engineer that access spacing driveway access along Mango Road, and the same for the driveway access along Pruitt Road. And design exemptions were determined approvable by the county engineer regarding the east side of Mango Road to allow for 12-foot travel lanes, 11-foot auxiliary lanes, 10-foot multi-use trail from Pruitt Road. For another substandard road along Pruitt Road, same thing, 12-foot travel lanes, 11-foot auxiliary lanes, 10-foot multi-use. So to conclude, and respectful recommendations, there are no reviewing agencies or departments that have objections. We respectfully request your recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners for these reasons. The existing use of a septic processing facility is already a heavy industrial type use. The CPA to LIP is consistent with existing commercial and industrial development in the surrounding overall area. Proposed uses in the companion PD are limited to light industrial and an aesthetic and odor improvement over the existing use. And the PD site plan includes setbacks and buffer screening compatibility measures and critical transportation improvements to the area. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Be sure and sign in with the clerk, please.
Good evening. Tanya Chapela, Development Services. The existing zonings are RSC4, mobile home overlay, residential single-family conventional, which permits single-family residential, conventional, and mobile homes. And it's also zone ASC1, agricultural single-family conventional, which permits single-family residential and agricultural uses. Excuse me. The proposed zoning is for planned development to allow limited light industrial uses, including warehouse, wholesale distribution, accessory open storage, and manufacturing, processing, and assembly. There is a companion comprehensive plan amendment, CPA 2426, to change the future land use designation from RES 2 to LIP. LIP allows for a maximum of 0.75 FAR. The proposed uses are comparable with the adjacent yard waste composting facility. Furthermore, the proposed 0.5 FAR is under the 0.75 maximum FAR allowable in the LI comprehensive plan category. The required buffer and screening from accessory open storage uses to residential area will be provided along the north, west, and south boundaries. The proposed setbacks, buffering, and screening exceed the requirements, reducing the impact of the building height and bulk. And the proposed building height meets the 2-to-1 height restrictions along the north and east, while an additional 20 feet wide buffer is proposed to the north. Given the above and subject to approval of CPA 2426, staff finds the proposed modification to be compatible with the surrounding properties and in keeping the general development pattern of the area. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the applicant's request.
All right, thank you. All right, Planning Commission.
Good evening, Tarek Royal, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the rural area within the limits of the Tenoda-Sassa Community Plan. The subject site is in the residential 2 future land use category. There is a pending comprehensive plan map amendment to change the future land use to light industrial plan, LIP. The request for a plan development is considered concurrent and dependent on the approval of HCCPA 2426. The future land use element permits new development within the rural area that is similar in character to the existing community. Objective 4 to the future land use element of the comprehensive plan notes that 20% of growth in the region will occur within the rural service area without threat of urban or suburban encroachment. Flu Policy 4.1 characterizes the rural area as low-density, large lot residential. The proposed PD is compatible with this policy direction. The request meets the intent in Flu Policy 1.4 with respect to compatibility within the surrounding area. According to Policy 1.4, compatibility is defined as the characteristics of different uses, activities, or design which allow them to be located near or adjacent to each other in harmony. Some elements affecting compatibility include height, scale, mass, and bulk of structures, pedestrian or vehicular traffic, circulation, access and parking impacts, landscaping, lighting, noise, etc. Compatibility does not mean the same as, rather refers to the sensitivity of development proposals and maintaining the character of the existing development. The LIP future land use category is located further south. The proposed request would allow for a development pattern that is compatible and comparable with the surrounding development pattern along County Road 579. Based above the considerations and the goals, objectives, and policies, Plan Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions set by the Development Services Department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right. Applicant, did you have anything further?
No, ma'am. We've submitted an electronic copy of the PowerPoint into evidence, as well as the August 2022 Planning Commission memo into evidence as well, and that concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, before we go to the next case, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. So we'll be in recess for 5 minutes.
5-minute break.
I'm ready. Yeah. All right, welcome back. If you'll please, everybody take your seat. We are reconvening. And we're ready to hear the next case.
Our next application is item D3, Major Mod 24-1137. The applicant is requesting major modification for PD 22-1387. I've reviewed this for Development Services and will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson, representing Eisenhower Property Group this evening. This is a vicinity map of the subject site. It's located off of 674 down in the Waimama Sun City Center area. The blue square is where it's located in relationship to the Waimama downtown overlay boundary. So it's not quite in the heart of downtown, but it is within that downtown area. Again, this is just a close-up of the site. You can see it had OC20 zoning on it. It's previously approved for option A, which is at the 100,000 square foot mini warehouse with a maximum height of 50 feet with 3 stories. And then we are required to preserve right-of-way for future improvements to Westlake Drive, and we are adhering with the design standards of the overlay. We're proposing option B, which will allow us to introduce retail on this site at a much lower intensity than the mini storage. We are proposing, we've talked about and analyzed in our traffic study, a 2,500 square foot drive-through for either a coffee or a donut store, but you'll see in the revised staff report, we are just subjecting that to a trip cap, so we're gonna be removing that specific reference to the coffee and donut store and deferring to retail uses that don't exceed the trip cap. Here, reducing the height down to 35 feet, and again, complying with the overlay design standards. We are asking for waivers from some of the land development options in the Waimama overlay district. In large part, those design standards tend to try to break up the development pattern into small blocks, which require you to build a roadway network essentially within your site. And it also pushes the front setbacks towards State Road 64, and here we're reserving right-of-way for the expansion of 674. So, and then also we are asking for relief from the 2-to-1 setback increase for both options. And the primary reason why is this is the site today. You saw in the previous picture, it was undeveloped. This stormwater pond has already been constructed. It's serving as stormwater drainage for Westlake Drive. And that significantly constrains our ability to move things around on this site to accommodate even just the 11,000 square feet of retail. And we have, we're going to have to be subject to review for our access and access management points at the time of site development, and those are in the conditions. Just to show you what's surrounding this, there is an adjacent PD plan with neighborhood commercial, BPO, and warehouse, and this just kind of wraps around the site. So the site's kind of in that white void. And then key staff findings, Planning Commission staff has found it consistent and compatible, and Development Services is recommending approval with conditions. We did see the revised conditions that are being handed out this evening, and we are in agreement with those conditions, and we would respectfully request your approval. And I'm here to answer any questions should you have.
All right, thank you. I have no questions for you. Just be sure and sign in.
Good evening,
Yes.
Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. This is a major modification to PD 22-1387, which, as you saw, is approved for a 100,000 square foot self-storage facility. The request tonight is to allow a second development option that would allow for 13,500 square feet of retail uses. The site is located at the southeast corner of State Road 674 and Westlake Drive in the Waimama community, which in this area is developed with residential and commercial uses. The site is also located within the Waimama downtown overlay. The waivers to some of those overlay standards are requested tonight for both the existing and proposed development options. The proposed uses in the second development option are not viewed as incompatible with the surrounding uses in or at an intensity less than the maximum permitted in the OC20 future land use category. Option A is approved for a maximum of 50 feet in height, 3 stories, and option B has a proposed maximum height of 35 feet, 2 stories. Both options are proposed to not comply with the 2-to-1 setback for buildings over 20 feet in height, and that would apply only to the southern and eastern boundaries. Staff is supportive of relief from that request due to the presence of the stormwater pond along the south, providing a natural separation, and the adjacent uses, which are not residential. As stated, 3 waivers to the overlay standards are requested. First is to the minimum maximum lot size and minimum maximum lot width requirement of the overlay for both development options. Development option A, which is the self-storage facility, is utilizing the retail office lot type standards. However, a self-storage facility is not typically what would be a retail or office use. However, that is the only lot standards available for this use, despite that the use is permitted in the zoning district, both now and in the previous zoning district of CI. The pond was engineered, as you saw, for roadway improvements, and that is already in place and cannot be moved. The drive-through use in option B is proposed to need a significantly larger lot, or not significantly, a larger lot size and lot width to accommodate for on-site queuing, which can't be put out onto the roadways. Therefore, they do need a larger site. The project will comply with the overlay standards of building design, frontage, and orientation. And lastly, staff would add that the overlay does not have minimum or maximum block standards. Therefore, the massing created by multiple buildings on smaller lots with a 0-foot setback, which is permitted in the overlay, would not have a difference than one building on one lot. Secondly, both options request relief from the maximum front yard setback of 20 feet along State Road 674 and 10 feet on Westlake Drive. For option B, the greater setbacks are necessary to accommodate the on-site queuing. For option A, the placement of the self-storage facility, which is a non-retail use along the roadway, is not as essential to the pedestrian environment, and parking will still be located to the side and rear to avoid a strip commercial appearance under that option. Thirdly, option B requests relief from the parking location standards to allow for some parallel parking between the building and the roadways. As you saw, the stormwater pond limits the area of parking available behind the structure for parking, and this proposed use does have higher parking standard requirements than the currently approved option. Therefore, minimal parallel parking is requested. Again, enhanced building design and compliance with the urban scenic corridor will be provided. We received no objections from reviewing agencies and recommend approval subject to proposed conditions. And as you heard, we did provide a revised transportation report, which shows some revised transportation conditions, and the same for zoning on a separate sheet for some updated zoning conditions. And then we will file a revised staff report tomorrow to reflect those changes. So those are in the record they've provided to you and the clerk. I'm available for any questions you have.
All right, thank you. And I have those changes, or a copy of those. All right, Planning Commission.
Good evening, Terry Crowell, Planning Commission staff. The site is in this urban service area within the limits of the Waimama Village Community Plan and South Shore Area-wide Assistance Plan. According to Appendix A of the Future Land Use Element, the intent of the Office Commercial 20 Future Land Use category is to recognize existing commercial and office centers and provide future development opportunities. New retail development should be a part of a mixed-use development or be clustered at an intersection of major roadways. Retail uses should be discouraged outside these nodes. OC20 is located to the north, east, and west of the subject site. Residential 4 is located to the south and east. The proposed major modification meets the intent of the Office Commercial 20 category, as it has commercial uses anticipated in this future land use category and is clustered at the intersection of State Road 674 and Westlake Drive. The subject site meets the intent of Objective 16 and Policies 16.2 and 16.3 regarding the protection of adjacent land uses through various buffering and measuring mitigation measures. The subject site is between light commercial uses to the west and industrial uses to the east. To the south are vacant lands and single-family residential. The stormwater pond will be located to the south and will act as a buffer. The proposal also meets the intent of policy 16.5 that intends to concentrate non-residential uses along collector and arterial roads external to established neighborhoods. The site is located at the southeast quadrant of State Road 674 and Westlake Drive and will not encroach on the single-family residential uses to the south. Based on above the considerations and the following goals, objectives, and policies, Planning Commission staff finds that the proposed major modification is consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Applicant, anything further?
Cami Corbett again for the record. The only thing that I did want to add was when we brought through option A, the warehouse use, there was some opposition from the community leaders in the area. They preferred to have some type of retail, and we were afraid we couldn't accommodate it due to the transportation issues, but we've been able to work through those, and we have not heard any opposition. In fact, I've talked anecdotally to some of the leaders down there, and they prefer this option. So.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. All right, this will close the hearing on Major Modification 24-1137.
Our next application is item D4, Major Mod 24-1141. The applicant is requesting a major modification to PD 06-1564. Chris Greenlard with Development Services will present staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. This is Major Mod 24-1141. I'm here with Hashem, who's the property owner for the site under review. This is a little bit unusual because we're seeking a split of the original PD and seeking two PD options, which I'm going to go through with you so it's very clear for you. We're located in the Lutz area, 0.90 acres, located on Livingston at the intersection of Sinclair. This is the current 06 approval, which is 06-1564. And we are in before you this evening on just the portion at the top. The other portion of the PD is not included. So today's application is only that north part that spans Sinclair. The other part of the PD is original PD. There's no changes. The concern, as it's been as I've been made aware, is that there's been difficulties or difference of opinions or different directions of where the original owners felt it should go. Hashem has been cited by code enforcement for PD violations, but he was not able to move forward for PD changes because the other owners would not sign off, as I've been told. So we worked very close with the staff, and I credit with the staff because this was difficult to do, was to split the PD so Hashem could move forward on his own and address the PD issues and at the same time bring it up to a better standard. So these are the two parcels that are before you this evening. The original parcel was 3,500 square foot of a dry cleaners. And this is that plan. In the cleaners was located at the intersection of Sinclair and Livingston, where the intensity was put at the intersection. There is stormwater further out on Sinclair. To the south, as you can see, is retention parking and building, or a building. So less intensive, was designed for less intensive from the intersection. So proposed PD plan option number 1 is to allow 2 food trucks and 1-story commercial, 1,236 square foot, which would be CN and CG uses. Proposed plan 2 would be just the 1-story commercial, 6,238 square foot CG and CN uses. Now, many uses were originally restricted, and I'm here to modify those conditions. So let me go back. It was a long list of conditions that were restricted because they were trying to make it as compatible as possible. So from that list, we want to pull out and keep as potential uses as convenience store without gas, restaurant, pharmacy, coffee shop, donut shop, daycare center, and shopping center, which would obviously have to be very small. So the proposed restricted uses of the ZHM is this list, and I'll put this in the record in writing so you have that as well specifically. Make sure that you can easily clarify and understand what those uses are, and I'll put that in the record as well. So this is the intersection. On the left side is the site, and to the north is a gas station and convenience. And looking a little bit again at the site, 2 food trucks and the small commercial use is as shown. Zoning, R6, R20 across the street with the gas and C-store, R12 across the street. I'm sorry, that was future land use, and zoning as indicated. Traffic count in Livingston was 13,993 vehicles per day. And I think one thing that did catch my eye on the loose community plan is that the loose community plan desires to retain existing and encourage new commercial uses geared to serving the daily needs of area residents in a scaled design that complements the character of the community. And we believe that this plan does that either by just the single store use, which I suppose could be a couple multi-tenants, and then also a couple food truck uses, which is a new commercial use would serve the daily needs of the community and are kind of a more open air, fun kind of food service. Also noted is improved design aesthetics to make physical development of the community more attractive and provide for individual expression, which we think the food truck element does. Now looking at buffers proposed, we're looking at the same orientation along Sinclair Road. In the rear is a 15-foot B where 20-foot B is required, and also a 5-type B where 20-foot B is required. And then on the front on Sinclair is a 6-foot B where 8-foot B is required. Now importantly, the PD uses below the PD site, which are not on the table and not under consideration, I want to emphasize is for retention and parking, and then there would be commercial building further to the south. All business activity is focused towards the intersection and is focused towards Sinclair Road. Looking at option number 2, buffers, 15-foot B where 20-foot B is required, 10-foot B where 20-foot B is required, and again along Sinclair, a 6-foot B where an 8-foot B is required. And again, the business activity would be here and focused towards Sinclair.
I have a question for you, Mr. Pressman. The commercial building that is basically on the corner of Sinclair Hills and, is that Livingston?
Correct.
Is that the existing building?
No, option number 1 is 1,236 square feet, and that would be the same building, yes.
That's the existing
under option
building.
1. Under option,
And is that the one that was approved, or is that the area approved for a dry cleaners?
yes, so that would be the area. Yes.
So the
because
current-
you can
the
see
current
there's a
approval.
drive-through coming through, which would be in coordination with the building at that location.
Okay, because the reason I ask is I thought one of your photographs showed there's a smoke shop there.
Showed
So
what?
is a smoke shop. So is there not a dry cleaners?
The dry cleaners, no,
There is not dry cleaners. There is a smoke shop, and the citation was for PD conditions, which we're working.
Okay.
I've been interacting with code enforcement. We've not been to the code enforcement board. Hashem was cited, and as we've been working with code enforcement towards making changes and corrections, they've held it for us to go through the process.
Okay, thank you.
There is a location waiver, which I have based upon placement of uses towards the intersection further from the residential. The remaining existing PD, which has intensity, and the uses of the split PD, located at a busy intersection, and the many restricted uses. We did get one letter in the record that I saw. I didn't check for the last couple of days, which I should have, but this was the neighbor to the south. And again, that's part of the original PD. I've explained why we've had to come forward and what the uses are in that PD. With that, I do want to mention that, and place emphasis that, again, we tried to work through the system to make the changes and be able to move forward this PD so that we can improve it and bring it up to a good level of speed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Since your client did speak up in response to my question a moment ago, if he would please put his name and address on the record, and both of you sign in.
Hashim Suleiman,
Thank you.
16411 Burniston Drive, Tampa, Florida 33647.
Thank you so much, and be sure and sign in. All right, Development Services.
Good evening, Chris Gralinar, Development Services. We're to present major modification 24-1141. The application consists of 2 parcels totaling 0.9 acres within PD 06-1564. The applicant requests a modification of the use to allow 2 options. Number 1, 2 food trucks and a 1,236 square foot commercial building with use exclusions. And 2, option 2 would be a maximum of 6,328 square feet foot commercial building with some use exclusions. The proposed commercial uses for both options include all CG and CN uses. I'm not going to go in and it's a long list of excluded uses unless you want me to. They're in the record.
No, I see it in the report. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, it's in the record, sir, ma'am. The remaining 3 parcels on PD 06-1564 will have no changes to their entitlements. The property is comprised of 2 parcels, is generally located at the southwest corner of Livingston Avenue and Sinclair Hills Road. The property is in the urban service area and is not within the limits of any community plan. The surrounding area is predominantly a mixture of single-family and multifamily residential and commercial. The subject property is designated Residential 6 on the future land use map. The Planning Commission found the proposed use inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. The proposed modification in option 1 would allow 2 food trucks within close proximity to residential. In addition, the applicant has requested a variation that would reduce the 20-foot wide required buffer next to a food truck to the west to a 5-foot wide buffer and a 15-foot wide buffer. These proposed reduced buffers are directly adjacent to a single-family residence zoned AS1 to the south. Also, the variation for option 2 reduces the 20-foot wide required buffer to the south residential to a 10-foot wide buffer and a 15-foot wide buffer. This would not provide adequate buffering in Development Services' opinion of possible noise and disruption from the business to residential. Staff finds the request not supportable. Please note the applicant had, after we filed the report, made some changes to his requested uses, allowed uses. They are not reflected in our staff analysis. That concludes my staff report. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
I have no questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission?
Good evening, Terry Crowell, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the urban service area, not within the limits of any community plans. The subject site currently has a vacant land and light commercial uses. While there are light commercial uses to the north across Sinclair Hill Road, single-family uses surround the subject site on all sides. Multifamily uses are to the east across Livingston Avenue and to the north across Sinclair Hills Road. The proposal will not be consistent with Flu Objective 1 and Flu Policy 1.4. Flu Policy 16.2 states that gradual transitions of intensities between different land uses shall be provided as new development is proposed and approved. Through the use of professional site planning, buffering, and screening techniques and control specific land uses. There should be a gradual transition of intensities between the different land uses given the residential uses across the subject site. Food Policy 16.5 directs development of higher intensity non-residential land use to be restricted to locations external to established and developed neighborhoods. The major modification would cause development that is not compatible with the surrounding area, rendering the request inconsistent with this adopted policy direction. The subject site does not meet locational criteria. According to Food Policy 22.2, the site in the Res 6 future land use category must be within 300 feet of a qualifying intersection. That includes a 2-lane roadway. The closest qualifying intersection to the subject site is Livingston, a 2-lane county arterial roadway, and Bears Avenue, a 2-lane county arterial roadway. The distance from the subject site and the closest qualifying intersection is roughly 3,900 feet, as opposed to the required 300 feet, and therefore does not meet CLC. Food Policy 22.7 notes that meeting commercial locational criteria is not the only factor to be taken into consideration when grading approval for an application. Consideration involving land use compatibility, adequacy, and availability of public services, environmental impacts, adopted services levels of affected roadways, and other policies of the comprehensive plan and zoning regulations would carry more weight than locational criteria in their approval of the potential commercial use. Based upon the above considerations and the following goals, objectives, and policies, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dennis Tamargo. I live at 15118 North 24th Street. I'm here speaking on behalf of 10 residents who live on 24th Street and immediately across on Livingston. Some concerns that have been talked about within the immediate neighborhood is traffic. We get school buses and stuff that pick up children early in the morning. I think you heard the gentleman say about 13,000 cars pass through that intersection every day. It can sometimes take 15 minutes to get to that intersection from Bears and 41. So the additional traffic, or rather Bears and Livingston, not 41, sorry. The additional traffic is a cause of concern for a lot of our immediate neighborhood. A lot of our community is elderly right by the area, so on a consistent basis for the past 6 months, there's been loud music till about 2, 3 in the morning. They will put an inflatable movie screen out on the grass, blasting lights down Sinclair Hills to oncoming traffic. And as somebody who works at night, that's not cool coming home from work and getting blasted in the face with lights. Just on New Year's, there was a fireworks stand that got a car ran through it. As well as the other concerns, the smoke shop being there, not being zoned to actually be a smoke shop. We do have a bad drug problem in the neighborhood, and right there on that block, we do get a lot of transient walking traffic through there by some unsavory characters, and that's been an ongoing issue for the past 6 years since I've lived in the neighborhood. So I urge you guys to consider this not a good idea. There are a lot of neighbors who are also concerned with flooding. We have on Livingston and, I'm sorry, on Sinclair Hills and 41, there's a new Tico plant going in with a drainage pond that flooded very bad during the hurricane. You also have Violet Curry Nature Preserve and Deer Park Nature Preserve, which flooded pretty bad. For me, that's gonna be a problem because I have I think the only drain in my easement on 24th Street close to that intersection. So paving and new construction, taking up green space that can help that watershed is also a concern for a lot of our neighborhood. So I urge you guys to consider to not change this zoning. They're given options. I'd like to give them the option to put some residences there, as most lots down Sinclair Hills are the same spot, and it could be much better used as a residential area and kept a residential area, seeing as how there's no commercial within probably 2 miles other than the gas station. So thank you for your time.
Yes, sir, thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Nishal Sufan. I live at 15118 Livingston Avenue, and that's the property next to that property. And really, since this is going on, we have no privacy at all. I mean, I don't know what they do. Just follow the law. Stay away from me as far as you can, because really we have no privacy at all over there. And he talked about a retention bond. The other retention bond in the neighborhood is the one by the gas station. There's no other retention bond in the area at all, but by front of the gas station. That's it. And there's nothing else to say because he just said everything.
Sir, could you, you just said that you have no privacy. Could you please explain what you mean by that?
No privacy at all. I mean, the people who come, the food trucks, they like in our backyard. I mean, this much between us. And you can't sit in the backyard, you can't walk in your back, they're there. And sometimes people, I hate to say this, relieve themselves on our fence. You know, but that's everyday thing going on. It wasn't like this before. There's something all new.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Be sure and sign in. You have another comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there's time left. Make sure that you put your name on the record again, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'd also like to note that the structures that were built to have seating for the food trucks were put up about 3 or 4 years ago, no permits overnight. If you actually guys go out there, there's no run. They have a shop sink outside. Most neighbors are on a well, so a lot of the drainage from the sink where everybody's washing their hands or using the restrooms going right into the aquifer where we get our water from. We're not on a city water system, so that's a concern, as well as trash. There's been an uptick in raccoons and other environment. I had 5 armadillos that I shot on my property. Most property here is zoned agricultural, so with the animals that I have at my home, the additional trash environment that is coming from it is also a concern.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Can you
is there another
restate your name
speaker?
for the record, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Dennis Tamargo, 15118 North 24th Street.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, all. A very great opportunity. Thank you very much. I'm the tenant over the place right now, and I own the food trucks at the place.
I'm sorry, put your name and address on the record too, please.
My name is Sri Chetan Bongo, and my address is 15120 Livingston 502 apartment. So I'm the current owner of the food trucks right now. I do have 2 food trucks there. And thank you, gentlemen, everybody, they put their things very, very effectively there. But I don't go and positive with any of them because I do have all the bills regarding my trash, my water, my oil, all the dispensing, everything. And I know that definitely what I'm trying to do there, the city might be watching me. I'm more conscious than anybody because I do the business there, and I'm trying to do it in a very proper way. So I'm trying to maintain the community over there and trying to serve the food in a best way, in a neat and quiet way. So even I went for some of the neighborhoods and collected the information. If I'm having any trouble, if I'm being there, was there any trouble with me? So I collected the information with everybody, and 99%, I really don't have any problem. That's what I was taking a feedback every weekly. So it was the most thing I'm here today to explain that. I'm there to do the business very quietly and very good and make sure everything was under control and not going upon different limits with the city and trying to maintain the things very positive there.
Okay, and just to be clear, then you're not here to speak in opposition to this rezoning. It sounds like you're speaking in support of this rezoning. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, right.
Okay. Because you, as I understand, you are the operator of the food trucks.
Yes,
Is that correct? Okay,
yes,
thank you.
I recently came there because I don't know how many, like the gentleman told their problems, but I don't see any of there, and I'm doing very differently. That's what my point to conclude I was doing as positive. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Be sure you sign in right here with the clerk, okay?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, is there anyone else here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, I don't hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Yeah, as you heard, the applicant has presented a revision to what uses they want included and not included in one of the development options. And I know that, as you're aware, staff couldn't be able to consider that. Our staff report has been filed. The same would go for transportation with their transportation analysis that didn't take that into account, and any related AVs or design exceptions, as well as the Planning Commission. I also noted, I pulled up and I see that those uses were listed as excluded on the site plan. And the time to provide a revised site plan has passed. So if the applicant wants to go forward with that request, we would need a revised site plan. There's nothing we'd be able to do at this time. So he may want to look at continuing or going forward with the previous request.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. And we'll hear from the applicant then, please. So, Mr. Pressman, I'm going to consider this application, if it goes forward tonight, I'm going to consider it the way it was filed and the way the staff reviewed it and analyzed it without these last-minute changes, unless you wish to request a continuance to put those things in the record.
Well, I did raise this question to the planner, and I was told to bring these changes this evening, which were 3 or 4 items that we're just pulling from restricted uses. I don't see them as any material major changes, but I'm just saying I came forward with, as I understood, that it was permissible to do. So are we saying that it is not permissible to do?
Yeah, when I looked, I saw they're on the site plan, and that's kind of what makes it go into a kind of different area of the land development code. Most importantly, there's no changes, 1, for staff, and 2, for anyone who wanted to come and speak to that. What's filed in optics now, they may not have been concerned about because of the things you were excluding. However, tonight, with it being changed and it passed the site plan revision deadline, they could possibly be here, and also it's not in any of staff's reviews.
Oh, I certainly understand.
Right.
The element of the site plan and a quick discussion this afternoon. May I have 1 minute just to talk to Hashem on this issue, please?
Yes, the case will remain open, and I'll give you a minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so yes, we would like to continue the case to next month, and hoping that would be a staff continuance. That would not require notice.
Well, it would be going to the 3/24 hearing.
Right.
And my concern with not doing it as staff notice or staff continuance is because the notice is not required. And I'm concerned that the people who would receive notice would not be aware of this change because they are not here tonight. So the chain is somewhat obscured in that they will not know because they won't get another notice and they weren't here tonight. So I do have concerns with doing it as a staff continuance. I understand Mr. Pressman being concerned that perhaps staff didn't give him the full picture. Unfortunately, I wasn't aware that it was on the site plan. So
Okay. All right.
I apologize.
Well, no, I have to say it was a last-minute thing, and there's a lot of gears to these things, so there's no blame here or finger-pointing. It's an understandable element, and it's just the many years that we built into the bureaucracy, so it's certainly understandable.
Right.
But I still would not have to do, I still would like to very much not have to do the notice. I guess I would just add that we've done 4 notices on this. This is not a major change. It's 4 simple items. Neighbors are here.
All right.
Okay,
I understand. Okay. You are requesting a continuance,
Yes,
though, is
we
that
are.
correct? And
Thank
the continuance date will be March 24th?
Yes.
Okay. And I can't, change the code requirements for notice.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to grant the continuance to March 24th. So this is major modification 24-1141, being continued to the March 24, 2025 zoning hearing, master hearing, and
With notice required.
with notice required. Yes, sir.
May I ask a procedure? So when we come back next month, what are we reviewing the whole thing again, or are we going to review just the change, or how is that to be handled?
I believe the hearing has to be all over again.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. So this closes major modification 24-1141.
Our next application is item D5, which is PD rezoning 25-0022. The applicant is requesting to rezone from AS1 to planned development. Carol Ann Peddle with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right, applicant, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, go ahead, thank you.
My name is Michael Cosentino, architect. Live at 150 State Street East, Oldsmore, Florida. Okay. We're here for representing the applicant to rezone about 2 acres from an AS1 agricultural single-family to a PD planned development to allow the community residential home with a maximum bed count of 32.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add?
I
Okay.
don't know.
All right. I have reviewed the record. I have the staff reports and the planning commission reports. Don't have any questions for you.
Okay.
So be sure and sign in with the clerk here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That's it.
Unless you have anything else you would like to put in the record.
No, I think everything else was already presented today.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Development Services.
Good evening, Carol Ann Peddle, Development Services. This would be rezoning PD 25022. Again, the applicant is requesting a rezone approximately 1.99 acres from AS1 to PD to allow a Type C community residential home with a maximum bed count of 32. There are no waivers or variations requested with this application. The site is located on the east side of Olive Jones Road, south of Gun Highway, in an area primarily comprised of residentially zoned properties with commercial and office uses along Gun Highway. Existing uses in the vicinity include a church, plant nursery, daycare, 2 auto repair shops, multiple offices, and residential uses including multifamily, manufactured, single-family, and townhome dwelling units. The adjacent properties are zoned AS1 to the north, PD approved for townhomes to the west, and PD approved for multifamily residential units to the east. The surrounding properties within close vicinity are zoned CG, BPO, AS1, and PD. The subject property has a future land use designation of Res 6. The proposed community residential home is limited to a maximum bed count of 32, with a rate of 5 beds equal to 1 dwelling unit. The proposed number of beds are just over half the allowed density, and the same FAR of 0.25 of the future land use designation of Res 6. Furthermore, the project will provide buffer and screening along the northern property line adjacent to the church and to the south along the property line abutting the residential use. The maximum building height proposed is 35 feet with 1 story. The project will comply to the LDC Section 61128E, requiring the building to have a residential appearance. No waivers to the to the required residential zoning distance of 500 feet or the number of type B and C community residential homes within 1,200 square radius are needed. Staff finds the request approvable, subject to proposed conditions. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions for you.
Thank you.
All right, Planning Commission.
Good evening, Tyreek Royal, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the urban service area and within the limits of the Greater Carrollton Northdale Community Plan. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of Policy 1.4 and Objective 16 and its policies regarding neighborhood protection and compatibility with the surrounding area. The overall area contains primarily single-family residential uses. With the primary residential uses, community residential home use would be compatible. The proposed planned development would complement the surrounding land use and is therefore consistent with Policy 1.4 and Objective 16 and Policy 16.1, Policy 16.2, and 16.3 of the future land use element of the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Flu Policy 20.5 allows for the development of congregate living facilities within the land use plan categories that permit residential development within locations of facilities considered to prevent excessive concentration. The future land use category is Res 6, which permits residential development. The proposed plan development is consistent with Policy 20.5. Based upon the above considerations and the following goals, objectives, and policies, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions set by the Development Services Department. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right. Applicant, did you have anything further? All right, that's a no. All right, so this will close the hearing on rezoning PD 25-0022.
Our next application is item D7, Major Mod 25-0353. The applicant is requesting a major modification to PD 19-0535. Jared Folan with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right. Is the applicant here?
We are online for this one.
All right. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is Kyle Lau, representing for Langen Engineering and also Driven Brands as the applicant.
Can we hear? All right, wait just a minute. Can the clerk hear? Yeah. Sir, is there any way you can get your microphone a little closer? You're breaking up on our end.
Yeah, let me try this. Is that a little better?
Well, speak a little bit and we'll see.
Okay. All right. This is Kyle Lau representing Langen Engineering and also Paul Masola, who is with Driven Brands as the client. And the address is 333 Commerce Street, Suite 1600, Nashville, Tennessee, 37201. So what we are proposing here is, as mentioned, a major modification to PD 19-0535. And we do have a PowerPoint presentation. Not sure if we'd be able to bring that up, or I could share my screen as well if that works, because I do have it up.
Is it in the record?
Yes, we did submit it as part of the records. If not, that's fine too. We can speak without it.
Okay, are you going to share your screen?
Yes, I can do that. All right, can you all see that?
All right, and I think if you will keep your microphone steady and speak slowly, this might work.
Okay. Sure, that's fine. Okay, so what we have here is the proposal for a Take 5 oil change facility. The reason for our major modification request is that there is a current usage of an auto repair that is a prohibited use as part of PD 190535. And under the use restriction section, it does not list auto repair as a prohibited use. This is our existing property. This is our folio number 77089 as its current location. This is the previously permitted plan development shown, PD 190535. The proposed modification to the plan development we're specifically requesting is just on the top right corner of the entire plan development, as you can see right here. And as mentioned, we are requesting for the land use designation to include auto repair as a permitted use. And the second reason for the request for major modification is that on the PD, our future building footprint that was provided for us was slightly smaller, or not actually smaller, but not as wide as what we are requesting for the Take 5
All right,
oil
you're
change.
fading out again.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Just be sure you speak up and speak slowly and try to keep your microphone steady.
Okay, thank you. And the current future building pad that was proposed in the original PD was not as wide as what we are proposing for our building to be, although our current building will be smaller than 1,400 square feet. It'll be actually under 2,000 square feet. So this will actually make the future building pad smaller. And what we're also proposing as well in regards to transportation will not actually affect or will not actually increase the amount of traffic going into our property, but actually will decrease the amount of feet trips going into the property as well. There is a section mentioning about the zoning conditions that were listed as part of the PD, but we are requesting a de minimis exception because we are not making any modifications to any part of the property outside of what we have shown right here. So that is we're requesting for the proposal or the proposed modification to this plan development.
Okay, is that it?
That is it. It was a pretty simple request, hopefully.
Okay, so as I understand it, you're asking to allow auto repair as a allowed use. In other words, the way this, I guess it's presented in the staff report, to remove auto repair as a prohibited use. That, as I understand it, wasn't originally intended to be a prohibited use, and so that's where you're trying to get, so you can have an auto repair facility there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I wasn't clear on something you said. I believe you said exception. What was that?
That was I guess the zoning terminology that was used.
No, can't hear you. I'm sorry. Can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me better?
Yeah, try it again.
Okay. Yeah, that was the terminology that was used to represent, I guess, the original letters that were given for the design exceptions because of Pine Street.
Okay, design exception?
Yeah, design exceptions.
Okay.
We were requesting de minimis because we are not increasing traffic or making any changes at all to the original design intent of this property.
Okay, thank you. Is that all, sir?
That is all for us.
All right. Clerk, were you able to get the name and address?
Yes, ma'am, I did get it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Development Services, please.
Good evening, Jared Fallon with Development Services.
So this is a request to modify PD 19-0535, which was approved in 2020. This PD permitted CN commercial neighborhood uses with the exception of a number of restrictions that included convenience stores, restaurants, and gas stations. This list of restrictions was included on the conditions and on the site plan. However, the site plan included an additional restricted use, auto repair. Due to LDC Section 536 and Condition 19, the more restrictive regulation would apply. So this use was not intended to be restricted, and so this modification looks to correct this contradiction and allow a neighborhood-serving auto repair on the subject property. To add, however, auto repair will still be a prohibited use within the PD outside of the modification area. Just for context, the subject property is located along US Highway 301, a principal arterial, and is within the vicinity of other commercial uses such as retail uses, personal service uses, convenience stores, gas stations, and offices. Adjacent to the west is a single-family neighborhood comprising of single-family conventional and mobile homes. The approved site plan provides buffer and screening to these uses, which are currently in place, being built during phase 1 of the project. This generally includes a 6-foot-high fence and a row of evergreen plants or shade trees. There are no modifications to the buffers and will be required to be maintained. Staff has no issues nor any compatibility concerns with the proposed modification and find it approvable.
All right, thank you. No questions for you.
Thank you.
All right, Planning Commission.
Good evening, Terry Crowell, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the urban service area within the limits of the Riverview and South Shore area-wide systems community plan. The proposal meets the intent of FLU Objective 16 and its accompanying policies 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, 16.5, and 16.10 that require new development to be compatible to the surrounding neighborhood. Goal 12 and Objective 12-1 of the community design component of the FLU require new developments to recognize the existing community and be designed to relate to and be compatible with the predominant character of the surrounding area. In this case, the surrounding land use pattern is mixed use, but comprised mostly of light commercial and residential uses. The proposed major modification is compatible for the surrounding area and meets the intent of FLU Objective 1 and Policy 1.4. The subject site is within the Highway 301 corridor, which provide a safe, attractive, and efficient corridor system that contributes to the character and economic well-being of the community and provides a sense of arrival. Goal 1 under their cultural and historic objective of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Community Plan promotes sustainable growth and development that is clustered and well-planned to preserve the area's environment, cultural identity, and livability. The proposed major modification would complement the area that is comprised of mixed uses and aligns with the character of the community and environment. The request meets the intent of FLU Objective 18, Policy 18.1 of the livable communities element. Based upon those considerations, and the following goals, objectives, and policies, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions set by the Development Services Department. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Not hearing anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, not hearing anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right. So applicant online, did you have anything further you wish to add?
We do not. Thank you, hearing officer.
Was that a no?
Yes, we do not. Thank you,
Okay.
hearing officer.
All right, thank you. All right, that will close the hearing then on Major Modification 25-0353. And that concludes the zoning hearing master meeting for tonight.